So, last night I watched episode 3 of Titans, and once again I have thoughts to share, because that's how this works. So, we'll start off with a synopsis of some description. So, at the beginning of the episode, the father of the family, which a bit of research has told me, is the nuclear family, which did appear in Teen Titans comics in the 80s. That's beside the point. Anyway, Raven is captured by them as per last episode, but he gets barbecued by Starfire and she takes Raven under her wing. They go to a convent named St. Paul's, where Raven had apparently spent some time before. In the midst of all this, Dick is trying to track them down. He finds them eventually, and then it turns out that the nuns have, do I say ulterior motives? Because they're not evil. They're just really misguided in their attempts to avoid evil. So, they lock Raven up, but then she allows her dark self to completely take over, and she blows up the convent. During all that, we learn a bit more about why Starfire is looking for her, and Starfire makes a connection that Raven is a destroyer of worlds. So, that was a very, very brief rundown of the events of this episode. So, what do I think? We'll start with what they did right, because that'll be quick and easy to get out of the way. So, I really enjoy Starfire's presence on the screen. She is a lot of fun when she's on the show. I'm beginning to move past that stupid costume they put her in. It's still stupid, but she's still a great character, so I'm just going to accept it until they change the costume, which they seem to be promising that they're going to do. So, yeah, Starfire's great. She's a badass. She's closer to the comics version of the character than the cartoon. Now that I've familiarized myself a little bit more with the comics and seen this episode, it looks like they're taking more a page out of Starfire's persona in the comics. But yeah, no, generally I really, really enjoy Starfire when she's on screen. Raven is also shaping up to be a really good character. I now really like watching her on the screen and how she interacts with everyone. She's kind of adorable in places, but we're going to use that to go into what I didn't like, because once again Raven is the perfect transition point for me to start discussing this. Whilst I'm beginning to like Raven's character, she's still not Raven, you know? I like her character, she's great, but she's still nowhere near any of the Ravens that I've seen before, like the comics one or the show one, as in the cartoon. She is a very, very, very different entity, and I'm really trying to move away from judging the show based on previous iterations of the Teen Titans, because that's just going to end up in me being negative all the time.
Everything is garbage.
With the characters, you need to get that right to some extent, and they're not doing that here with Raven at all. She's completely different from anything we've seen. Now, again, I speculate that we'll move more towards the Raven that we're more familiar with as the show progresses. Maybe that would be a side effect of her loss of control at the end of this episode. So maybe it's too early for me to call on that. But it's still something I wanted to comment on, because it's still something that kind of bothers me a little bit. And then there's Robin, who's... Those flashbacks to his childhood would have been a lot better if the kid playing Dick wasn't so bad. He had one emotion, and sure, that could be chalked up to the fact that Dick had just suffered a life-changing traumatic event, but still, one face that he doesn't change, except for the bit where he dramatically declares that he wants to kill the people who killed his parents. But, this whole treating Bruce Wayne like this sort of mystery figure, I mean, I guess it could work, but it's not working for me right now anyway. Maybe as flashbacks progress, we'll get more on that. So, the flashbacks weren't great, mostly because the kid playing young Dick can't act. And then Dick in present day, he's still angsty up to 11.
Never love anything.
I did see one other recap that I read after watching the episode, which suggests that there's the scene where Dick's talking to Raven in the church, that he just makes it about himself. I guess he kind of does. There is a point he is trying to make, though, but he definitely doesn't actually make it. And he's still not apologized for Raven for trying to dump her on Hawk and Dove. If he doesn't get on that shit soon, I'm gonna have to kill him. Yeah, that's... I'm gonna keep that in the video because that is a dumb thing that I said, but I'm gonna just embrace it. This is the low quality content you came here for. Speaking of Hawk and Dove, Dove survived the previous episode somehow, so I guess that they're just leaving it open for the Hawk and Dove to come back, which would be great considering how hastily they were written out of the action after having the whole thing center on them in the first episode, which is kind of stupid. Like, in terms of planning a show, you do not focus an entire episode on someone and then just write them out of the action in the next one.
That's just lazy writing.
Hawk is surprisingly willing to just sit on his ass and let Dick do the investigation. I would have thought that Hawk would have been the type of guy who'd get up and go,
"No, I'm going to go and find the people who hurt my girlfriend, and I'm going to destroy them."
I don't know what that was either, but we're just gonna roll with it. Anyway, no, he just sits on his backside after Dick says, "Just stay here and be with her." And he just Hawk doesn't put up a fight, he just nods and then walks out of the episode. So, also, if they were gonna do the thing of Dove being injured, did they have to end the last episode on the cliffhanger of, "Oh, she's dead"? Because they were obviously trying to say she was dead, but then they 180'd on that, being like, "No, she's in a coma." And yes, comics do that from time to time, but still, it was pretty stupid. The nuclear family, I legitimately don't know what to say about them. Yeah, one of them gets burned to a crisp right off the bat, so the father's dead. The rest of them go back to this sort of headquarters where they meet the person who gave them their abilities or engineered them or something, and he threatens them with death, but then is like, "Lol, nah," which was kind of odd and possibly a bit pointless. I feel like that's just padding at that point. But there's the scene right at the beginning where the family's doing this sort of really, really cheesy, like, family car trip routine, and Raven's just sitting in the middle of feeling completely terrified. And honestly, that was one of the weirdest things I'd ever seen.
What the fuck is going on?
The nuclear family are so horrifically creepy in the way that they are like these the poster nuclear family, except they're psycho killers. I don't know what the deal there is. I particularly can't stand the mother because she behaves like a child as well. And let's just add a category of things I don't really know how to classify. Let's talk about Beast Boy, who once again gets a 30-second bit and then out of the episode like he doesn't hecking matter, which is that's if they do that again, it's going to be getting old by that point. His appearance in this episode, I wasn't sure what to think about, because they're obviously already angling for a sort of BB Ray thing. That in of itself, I don't mind, because I'm big on BB Ray when I'm watching the cartoon, because, well, let's face it, that's what the writers and Tara Strong and Greg Sipes had in mind. So I'm big on that. I love that pairing because it's like opposites, but they still find something in common, I guess. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know why I'm explaining to you guys why I ship two characters. That went into a completely different direction there. Okay, but the point is, on that note, their interaction in the episode, it's kind of cute. On the other hand, it's awkward as hell. And it feels really forced. It's like they forced them together to be cute. And by the time they get around to being adorable, Dick walks in and ruins it. Oh yeah, I guess I should talk about this complication to Dark Raven. I don't even get what the Dark Raven's damage is. Like in the first episode, she seems to be trying to protect Raven, but now she's all like,
"Let me take control and we'll destroy everything."
It's like, that was a quick switch. And this thing of her talking to her and taunting her through the mirror, and then the mirror shattering and all that just got edgy as hell really, really quickly. But again, I'll reiterate, all of that sucks. But Starfire doesn't. So That's alright. We got something to keep watching a show for. Again, I'm not gonna quit the show because I'm mad at it right now, because we're only a quarter into it, because it's gonna be like 12 episodes, right? Yeah, no, so we're a quarter of way into it if that's the case. It's not looking great. I'm not particularly enjoying this show so far, but still, there are good things about it. I still see potential for it to really turn around. I guess when the next episode drops, we'll see how that goes. But my optimism is slowly dwindling. Anyway, obligatory speech about that like and that subscribe button. I'll come back at some point with that episode of Doctor Who that I was going to talk about, which I did film, but I haven't started editing yet because I have exams that I have to worry about. So, yeah. Having said all that, I will see you later.